share screen. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for making it to the first class in this series of teaching that we'll be having for the next 4 weeks. It's going to be running 3 times weekly, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and the time remains 7 p.m. daily. That is 7 p.m. Nigerian time. You have to find out how to move that into your own time zone. I understand that people from different parts of the world are connected to this webinar. So as you can see on the screen is Learn Excel in 4 weeks, turn everyday data into insights that drive business revenue. Yes. So we'll be learning how to make meaning. Basically, data analysis is just being able to make meaning to data. Yeah, because data are lying here and there, but being able to say 1 or 2 things about data is always very important. So as a way of introduction, my name is Kingdom Woju, and I hold a PhD in applied statistics. I'm also a certified data analyst from Google. So by the special grace of God, I am the CEO of KD Concept Consulting. And at KD Concepts, we render quality academic research consulting, virtual teaching, of course, webinars, just like this one you're on right now. We also do statistical analysis, software training, which is this, and general contracting. So why should you listen to me? Why should you learn Excel from me? All right, so this is just a little bit of my profile here. Yeah, PhD in applied statistics, I've said that. Also have MSc in applied statistics, and I hold a bachelor's degree in mathematics, computer science, a data analyst certified by Google, and I have over 7 years experience doing research and data analytics. And of course, I don't just teach it, I also practice it. I'm a data analyst at Nourish and Bloom Markets, Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. And I also function as the business analyst at Geomine Techno Limited, Lagos State, Nigeria. And over the years, we've been able to handle over 30 PhD, MSc, and thesis for scholars in Nigeria, and especially those overseas, including UK, USA, Canada, and Germany. And we are still breaking forth into more countries. Okay. So away from that, I am also a research associate at the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, Nigeria. So sometimes they do send me data, and it's surprised to know that I use just Microsoft Excel to analyze big data sent from NCDC. And of course, they put some money in my bank account. All right, having said all that, let's go to the business of the day. I'm going to share a different screen now. Let's just have a brief introduction to what exactly Microsoft Excel is. Okay, so these are key things you need to note about this software which we are about to use. By the way, if you're in this class right now, I want to assume that you already have Microsoft Excel installed in your system, and of course, it is fully functional, ready for use. So key things you need to note about Microsoft Excel. The first thing there is that Excel is a spreadsheet program. Now, in the Microsoft suite, there are different softwares. We have the Microsoft Word for typing. We have the PowerPoint for presentation. So for spreadsheets, where you have series of cells, rows, and columns where you can enter data, that is how Excel is. There are other spreadsheet packages like Access, like SQL, and the rest of them. So Excel is a spreadsheet package. That is to say, it is not basically used for typing. It is used for data computation. So Microsoft Excel is used to organize, calculate, and analyze data in tabular forms using rows and columns. Okay, now, files prepared in Excel are called workbook. Okay, just like files prepared in Microsoft Word are called documents. When you prepare files in Excel, they are called workbook. And of course, pages in Excel are simply called sheets. All right. So I believe everyone has seen my face now. I need us all focus on this. So I'm going to turn off my camera. Please permit me so that we can all focus on the shared screen. Thank you. All right, let's go. So in Excel, data is presented in rows and column. Okay, why we just have a quick glance on this? I want to share a cell screen so that you can see exactly what we're talking about. Talk about cells and all that. So quickly, let's just go to a cell screen. So that's okay. So we don't just say theory, we also talk practical. Now, this is what the interface of Microsoft Excel looks like. Once you're logged in, you're going to see an interface just like this one. And then it is from here that you can do all forms of data analytics and whatever you have to do. So I think the first thing we need to do is let us get familiar with this environment. So this is a workspace of Excel. You can see different menus from home to insert to page layout, formula, data, and the rest. Now, if you're familiar with the Microsoft Office suite, you understand that some of these buttons are already in the other suites, apart from things like data, which we are going to be using so much while talking about Excel. Now, this is an Excel workbook, and we're in a sheet called sheet 5 here. Now you can see that we have rows and we have columns. On the columns are the vertical lines, of course. On the columns, we have alphabets A to Z, and of course, when it gets to Z, you can see AA, AB, and it's continuous. While on the row, we have from row 1, 2, 3, 4, and it extends to a very large number, allowing you to be able to carry out from simple to complex data analysis in this software. Now, observe that whenever I click on any particular square rectangular box, you see that the address is highlighted, okay? Now, each of these boxes you can see here, these are what we call a cell. Now, data in Excel are being entered into these rectangular boxes called cells. And every cell is unique. What do I mean by that? Every cell has its own reference or address. For instance, now that I'm in this cell, you can see that on the column, D is highlighted, while on the row, 6 is highlighted. So this is cell D6. Yes. And somewhere here, this is going to be cell E7. Can you see that? This is cell E7. So for you to be able to call any cell in Excel, you have to be able to identify the cell reference. So that's the first thing you need to know, that data is entered in a cell into cells, and every cell has a cell reference. And for you to be able to know the cell reference, just combine the name of the column together with the name of the row. You have the cell reference. Like if I enter data here, let's say 10. This data 10 entered here is in cell D10. Can you see that? Now observe something again. Texts are aligned to the left by default, while numerical values are aligned to the right. Can you see that? Yes. So it is not a coincidence. Excel understands that you can also enter text. However, when it comes to analysis, it prefers to work with number. So even if you have text data, you have to assign numerical values to them. Okay, so having said all that, now, the first thing you want to do with Excel is, of course, you can just use it to create table. Like, let me give you an example. If you look at this sheet here now, you can see data entered into different columns. On column B, we have staff ID. On column C, we have some names, which if you look closely, you find out that these names are not showing very well. Now, borrowing leaf from Microsoft Word, if you have a table, you can always adjust the width of your table. So in Excel, how do you do that? There are two ways. Now, the first way is once you click on the line of a column, your cursor changes to a darker cross. You can click there and then drag to expand. Yes. so they can be able to see your cells very well. Okay. Now, another way we could have done that is just to come to the cell top and double click. Once you double click, it adjusts it to a perfect width size, making sure that every data shows. So this data was neatly entered cell by cell. Now, let's say you want to enter another data. Let's say down here, we want to enter EMP, okay, 021. And the person's name is myself, Kingdom Muju. Please, when it gets to your practice, you can enter your name. And my description, my department, okay, I'm in research. All right, so what do we have here? This is like a basic salary for these individuals. Okay, let's say my basic salary is 230,000. Now, we don't know what currency it is yet. So you see how that is being done. Now, how did I navigate? You can use your mouse pointer, click on any cell while you enter information, or you can just use the direction arrows on your keyboard to also navigate. Okay, you can navigate right, left, left, right. You can also use your tab. The usual way to navigate in Microsoft Office suites is still applicable here. So depending on which one you prefer, if you want to work with your keyboard, you can use your arrows to move up, down, left, right, or you can just use your mouse to click on any. Okay, now, as you can see, this data was neatly entered. Let's say someone just wrote this on paper. So one of the things you can do with Microsoft Excel away from data analysis is just to use it to enter data into table, like create a table using a Microsoft Excel. As you can see, staff ID has been entered. Then we'll have names, we'll have departments, then we'll have basic salary. Yeah. Now, if you want this formatted as table, you need to add a border to it. For instance, if I go to File, let's say I want to print. Now, you can see in the preview that there is no border attached to this data here. All you're seeing in Excel is just grid line. This grid line is just to guide you. Now, if you want a border applied to your work, let's say after you're done preparing the table, mind you, you've not started any form of analysis. This is just you entering data in rows and in column. I'm just going to highlight or select. Now, to highlight is to click and drag, cover entire work area. Then from this menu bar here, you can see from home, this place you're going to see border. So you can select a border style. I'm going to choose all border. Now, can you see that a border style has been applied to this data? You can also go ahead and apply other forms of format like bold and the rest of it, adjust to fit properly. Now, let's go back to print preview and see what we have now. File, print. Now, you see that this has been created like a table because we have applied a border to it, okay? So simply say that Excel can just, it makes it easy for you to enter a set of data in rows and column. Without, in Microsoft Word, you have to first of all go to insert table, and then you tell them the number of rows and column you want. But right here in Microsoft Excel, the spreadsheet is readily available. All you have to do is input your data into the available spreadsheet and format it properly. And of course, yeah, you have your data ready, okay? So that is it. Now, looking at the outline, preparing table, basic calculations in Excel. Okay, now we can also use Excel as a calculator, okay? Let's say we'll have data here, 20. And we'll have another data here, 2. Now, I can carry out a computation between these two values in Excel. Let's say I want to get their sum. Let me say here, I'll write sum. Here, I'll write difference. Here, I'll write product. And of course, quotient. So of course, you know what sum do? Sum adds two numbers, okay? Now, before I start working with cells, I can just come here in a cell and say equal to 2 plus 2. Enter, and it gives me 4 straight. This This is just using it as a calculator. You just want to do a calculation. You see the way I just entered it, equal to 2 plus 2. Now, for you to enter any form of command in Excel, you must start with a equality sign. Every command starts with equal to, okay? 3 plus 6, enter. It gives you 9 straight. That's direct computation, okay? But anybody can do that. And in Excel, we're not just interested in using it as calculator, but building up a form of database such that when you update your data, following the same instruction you've given the computer is going to update your record. So what do I mean by that? Look at this now. We have cell in D4 and of course E2. I want to add them up here. So I'm going to use equal to. The function for adding here is sum. If you go to formula, you're going to find a whole lot of them. Insert function. You see a good lot of them. If you search, you're going to see them all. So the function here is just add. So I will say equal to sum. Then you see different forms of sum is out. I'm just using the first sum. Then you open your brackets or parentheses, just brackets. Then what am I adding? I want to add 20 plus 2, but I'm not going to write 20 plus 2 here because this value 20 can change. It's just a data point. So instead of writing 20 plus 2, I'm just going to call the cell reference of those two data points, which is what? D4 and E2. So very quickly, I'll just say D4 is not case sensitive. Then plus. Can you observe that immediately I type D4, the D4 cell is highlighted. So I'll say plus. Then E2. Sorry, that's E4. So Excel has understood that whatever value is in cell D4 and the one that is in cell D5, add it up. Now I'm going to end by closing the bracket and enter. Enter is always like your equal to execute a command. Now, I think that's very correct. That is 22, okay? Now, what about difference? For difference, you don't need to do so much. It's just minus. So I just say equal to. Now, if I don't want to type D4, I can just simply click on that cell. Excel will automatically tell me that, okay, you mean D4. I'm like, yeah. Then minus, I'll click on the next cell here, which is E4. Enter. It's just giving me the difference, which is 18. That's correct. Now, this is just basic arithmetic operations of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So you can use Excel to do such computation. Okay? Now for products, it's just, remember you must start with equal to. I'm still going to click on the first, which is D4. Asterisk, of course, if you're familiar with programming concept, you find out that asterisk is always a universal symbol for multiplication. So D4 asterisk E4 and enter. Yes, that's correct. 20 times 2 is 40. And of course, the last one is the quotient. Just to divide them, quotient is like division. So I just say equal to, of course, D4. I just click on the cell, divided by, use your forward slash for division, divided by this, and that's 10. So that's very correct. Now, we have been able to get the sum, the difference, the products and quotients of these two values here. Now, this is where it becomes very interesting. What if we increase the data point? Let's say this is 23, this is 45, this is 33. I can even put negative values like minus 12, 10, 5, 3, okay? And let's update this record. Let's say you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, what we can usually do without the use of spreadsheet packages like Excel is I will still have to come down here to do the same computation all over again. Maybe come here and say equal sum and do the same thing, but we don't have to do that because we have already entered this function for sum. All I have to do now is to apply it to the rest of the columns here, okay? So I'm just going to apply to the rest of the column. How do I do that? There are two ways. Firstly, once you click on a command you've entered, look in the address bar. Can you see in the function bar? It tells you exactly the function you enter, that's sum D4 plus E4. Now, I want to apply it to the rest of them. Let it also compute the sum of the other rows. Two ways. If you click on a cell, you see a small black dot or a small thicker dot. Put your mouse pointer on it. It changes to a cross. Then you click there and drag it down. Smooth. Excel is going to compute the sum of every other number you've done. Then similarly, I can do the same for difference. Click on that same small dot on the diagonal end. It changes to this black cross. Click and drag down. So this is the difference. Now, someone will ask me, what if you have 1,000 rows? How are you going to click and drag that in a very limited time? Let's say in a twinkle of an eye. So there's a second way to apply a function to the rest of the column. Instead of clicking and dragging, place your mouse at that tip where it changes to cross and simply double click. That's all. Voila. You see that? So if you don't want to click and drag and you're sure you want to apply it to subsequent rows, just double click. I'm going to apply it here again. Just put it there when it changes to cross. Double click. Yeah. So this is it. I can just call this place whatever, maybe group 1 and call this group 2. Now, as you can see, I've been able to carry out something that is very interesting here. We've been able to find the sum of group 1 and 2, the difference, the products, and the quotients. Now, to make it even more beautiful, I'm going to convert this to a table by highlighting it and then come back to my home and then come to this border point here and insert a border to it. Yes. Now this becomes a very fine analysis we have done here. We've been able to get the sum, difference, products, and quotients of this data by simply carrying out basic arithmetic operations such as sum for addition. For difference, just use your minus sign on the keyboard. For products, we use asterisk. Then for quotients, we use division. But are we going to stop there? No, please. We can extend this knowledge of doing basic computation to even bigger group data. Let's look at this data in sheet 3 that we were talking about before. Now, back to this place. We have this data here. This is like a payroll. Okay, let me show you what it's going to look like at the end of the day. Look at this. This is a very fine computation that has been done here. Mind you, the only thing supplied was just basic salary. And we had to compute some of these allowances up to net pay. So follow me as we just use this to practicalize how to do basic computations in Excel. Mind you, the first step is to enter your given data. Maybe this data was supplied from a different source. You have to type it, okay? So data entering is the first point in data analytics. You must learn how to enter your data and enter it accurately. As you can see, this is from EMP1, like employer number 1, now to employer number 21. Well entered, okay? It doesn't have to be in any order, because later in this course, we learn how to do sort and filter. Maybe you can sort by name, by staff ID, or by departments. We are getting to all that. So what is the objective here? The objective here is for this data, we are going to be doing simple computations such as allowances. You can see that the allowances are not showing very well because the columns are smaller. If I want to expand these columns, I'll just from the top highlight the entire column, then click on one of them and just double click. Yes. Can you see what just happened? Every column is now adjusted to fit so that I can be able to see the text very clearly. All right, this session is going to end in 7 minutes and we'll come back for a second session where we'll be wrapping it up for tonight. So for this data, as I've explained before, this is like a payroll of a company. You can see their staff ID, can see their names, can see their departments, and only basic salary is supplied. Every other thing here is like a percentage of the basic salary. And this data was given to you that you should be able to compute this payroll. Mind you, the only thing we are going to be doing here is just applying basic arithmetic operations and maybe just applying percentage. How do you get percentages of values? And of course, at the end of the day, we are going to be calculating the total sum for each column. Now, let's get started with this. The first we need to compute here is the transport allowance, which is 15%. Remember that all these allowances are subject to the basic salary. So how do you do that? Just simply come here to the first column. Yes, please, the data will be shared at the end of this class. Yes, the data will be shared. Just listen attentively. I'm going to share this data so I can practice with it at the end of class. And for every other class, every data used will be supplied at the end. All right, thank you. All right, so moving on. Okay, now how do I compute the transport allowance, which is just 15%? I'll just say equal to 15%. Excel understands percentage. Yeah, 15%. Remember, it's going to be off your basic salary. So 15% multiplied by my basic salary, which is E5. So I can just say E5. E5. Okay, 15% asterisk E5 and enter. That's all. That's out. Okay, I can just do for the rest of them, or I can just apply the same command for the rest. Remember how I told you to apply? Since I'm very sure I'm going to apply it, I can either click here and then drag down till I get to the last person. You see how fast that has been done? We've just computed the transport allowance for everybody. Mind you, it's not just because there are just 21 staff. Even if there are 1,000 staff, the same time taken for us to compute this thing for 21 staff is the same time it's going to take for you to compute it for as many staffs as possible, as long as they are in the same sheets. Okay? All right, moving on to medical allowance, which is 25%. What do we do again? Equal to 25%, then multiply, which is asterisk. I'm going to click on the same basic salary. Enter. That's it. I think that's 3,000. Yeah, very correct. Then I'm not going to click and drag. I'll just come to this place. Once my cursor changes to plus, I will double click. We just apply it for everybody on the same sheets. Now move on to housing allowance, which is 30%. Please just work with me. So that's going to be equal to, remember, for every command, you must start with equal to 30% multiplied by all are subjects to basic salary. So still E5. And then you click on the cell, come to this place. Once your arrow changes to this cross, double click. You apply for the rest. Now look at this one. It's very interesting. They say data allowance is 10,000 and it's a flat rate. Now for flat rates, or one way you can do that is you enter 10,000 and then you come to this person, you also enter 10,000, but that's going to be time consuming. Since it's a flat rate, all I have to do is once I enter for the first person, you just apply it for others by just simply double clicking. Everybody gets the same rates. Of course, data rate is the same. Okay, so this is a flat rate. Remember, it's not a percentage. All right. Now we have tax. Tax here is 10%. Okay, can even wrap up this in this session. Yeah, it's not much work to do anymore. So tax is just 10%. So this is going to be equal to 10%. Of course, still multiplied by E5. Remember that tax is a deduction. So I'm going to now double click to apply it to the rest. Now get to gross pay. Now we have gross pay and net pay. For those of us who have accounting knowledge, you find out that Gross pay is going to be the basic salary plus all the allowances, but not including tax. That will be your gross pay. So how do we do that? We are going to be summing up from E5 to I5. Yes, from E5 to I5. Now, remember that to add, you use sum. Now, somebody will think of saying E5 plus EF, F5 plus. That's going to work. But when you want to add up more than two cells, just use your column. You know column? We have semicolon and column. So use your column, the double dots. So I'm going to sum up from E5 to, yes, to allowance data here, which is I5. So Excel is going to highlight the entire range from basic salary to data allowance. Now I'm going to close the brackets and enter. Yes, that becomes the gross pay. What do I do now? I will double click to apply it to the rest. Now this session is going to end shortly and we will come back again. So you're going to rejoin the meeting for the second segment. Okay? Now using the short time we have, now what becomes net pay? Net pay is simply the difference between gross pay and tax. So when you deduct the tax from their gross pay, you get their net pay, which is what they are going home with. So that's just a difference, which is equal to gross pay is K5. K5 minus, which is subtract, I just click on it, tax, which is J5, and enter. What do I do now? Double click. And as simple as this, we've been able to compute the payroll. This course is designed to handle both basic and advanced. So Google Sheets is always, it comes in handy because you can use it online. Yeah, you can use it online without having Excel. But when we have to do things like pivot analysis and building of dashboard, you will need to get Microsoft Excel installed. I hope I have answered that question. Okay, someone is asking about time. Okay, the timing is not a problem. This course is fully recorded. So at the end of each session, the video will be made available. So you can always play it and catch up at any time, okay? Yes. So 7 p.m. is when the live session is going to be, but the video will be provided at the end of each class. You can always catch up at your own time. And the data for practical will be made available. So while practicing, you can practice while you watch the video, or you can watch the video and then practice. All right? Thank you, Joseph. So any other question? All right, let's continue. We'll get back to the question. All right, so back to what we are doing here. As you can see, the data given to us was just a basic salary of a group of workers for a company. I think these are their names here. Please, if you see your name, you can answer present. John Dio, Mary Johnson, Peter Okon, Grace Wonsu, and rest of us. And my name is also here, Kingdom Mojo, of course. Yeah, so this is like a typical payroll example. And we're just using this to practicalize how to do basic arithmetic computations in Excel, okay? How to use Excel for basic computation. We've not really dived into deep analysis. This is just like using it as a calculator. But you can see that it is faster and it is efficient, okay? You carry out a command in just one row, and then you double click here and the same command is applied to the rest, and it is very, it reduces human error, okay? Imagine if you were to compute this thing by hand or with a calculator, one after the other. Firstly, there'll be approximation error, there'll be human error, may even mix up the value. But as long as your first computation is right, Excel will just apply it to the rest. Mind you, see what it's doing. If you click on this place, if you check the address bar here, you have 15% of E5. Now, see what happens when you come to the next. It shifts 15% of E6. Can you see that? If you come down here, you have 15% of E9. So Excel will say, okay, you're computing 15% of the data in this previous column. All right, I'm going to help you do that for the rest of the rows. Okay. So far, we've been able to compute the allowances for each. We have different allowances here from transport, medical, housing, of course, data. Remember what we did with flat rates? You just enter the value and you double click to apply the same rates to others. And of course, this is tax, which is a deduction. And then if I double click, it shows you exactly what you did to get a particular value. Any value that was gotten by computation, if you double click on it, it shows you exactly what you did, just in case you're trying to trace an error, because it's also possible that instead of entering from E8 to I8, perhaps I could have entered from E8 to maybe J8, which is I've entered more than I should. So you can always come back to make corrections. Adjust it here or from the function bar. You can also adjust it from the function bar. All right. So we've been able to get the gross pay, and for the net pay, we've seen that it's just a difference between the gross pay and the net pay. So what you have here is exactly what each staff member is going to be going home with at the end of the day. But are we going to stop there? No. We need to let the company know exactly how much they are paying for each particular column, starting from the basic salary to all the allowances and up to the net pay. So that means we are going to be getting the column total. I'm going to come down here. Yes, I'm just going to write total, a very big total here. Now, see what I'm going to do. I want this total to cover from B to D. That will take us to what we call merge and center. I'm just going to highlight from B to D. Now, I'll come to my menu here. You can see test wrap, which will come to. Then I'm going to use merge and center. Yes, it will just merge those three cells and just keep as total. Maybe I just make it bold. Okay. Now, we're going to be computing the total for each column. So, of course, you know it's equal to sum. I'll open my brackets. Now, we are going to be summing from E5 to E25. So I can just say E5. Remember, your toe is your column, which is to E25. As you can see, the entire range is highlighted. I will close it and enter. This is the total sum of basic salary that this company is paying. Okay. Now, if I don't want to do it that way, let me delete that. I can still come and say equal sum, open a bracket. Just highlight the entire range you want to sum. Click, drag, highlight it. Can you see that? I've highlighted from E5 to E25. Okay. Now, knowing the cell address is very necessary. Let's say you have 1,000 rows. You don't want to go about highlighting 1,000 rows. All you have to do is from E5 to probably E1000. Yes. And you get your sum. Enter. Now, remember the same thing we do for columns. You can also do it for rows. I'm just going to click here now. Instead of dragging down, I'm going to drag to the right. Yes. So once I drag this to the right, as you can see, the total for the rest of the columns are out. So as a way of formatting, you can just make it bold. Maybe apply a color here. You can see this fill color here. Maybe blue color. Yeah, just to separate it from others. So this is the total. Now, if you look at this place, see 5,166,800. This is the total sum that the company is going to be paying as salary for that month. Now, this data has been the computation has been completed, but now we need to also format it. If you check, you find out that these places have border. So I can just highlight the entire work range. This is just now formatting your work so that it looks very fine. Then come here and apply all border. Good. So this makes it look like a real spreadsheet here. Now, another thing is important. Sometimes when you have data like this, you don't know in which currency they are in. You can also assign currency to given data points. How do I do that? These places where we have data, I can highlight them up, just the numerical values. if you come to the menu bar, you can see this place. This place you have percentage, you have comma, and the rest of it. So the first one here is currency. Now, if you click on currency, you're going to see some very frequently used currencies like the cost, pounds, dollar, euro, and rest of it. Let's say I just want them to be in US dollar. Just click on that. Yes. I see that this data has been formatted in US dollar. Pay attention to what has happened to net. Can you see this place showing hash, 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 hash? Now, this simply tells you that the data point in this column is longer than the column size. What do you have to do? You just come to the column length here, double click. Yes. To just expand it, or you manually click and adjust it to any size you want. Make sure your data is fully out. So this data has been formatted in US dollars. Let me undo that. Control Z. Now, what if I wanted to format it in our local currency in Nigeria, which is the Naira, or any other currency you are working with? Just come to that currency accounting number format. Yeah, go to more accounting formula. Just click on more. The dialog box is out. As you can see, this is Naira here. Yeah. So if you search through, you're going to see different currencies of the world. And of course, you know them by their symbol. So I can just use Naira, which is here. And okay. Again, this has been formatted in Naira, okay? And which was exactly what we saw in this place. Can you see that? So this was how this data was, this analysis was conducted by using simply basic information from company, just as the only data provided here, apart from strings, I mean text, which is like names and department. The data that was used to compute every other data in this table is just the basic salary. Yes, that was the only thing that was not computed. Every other thing was done by computation, and because they were subjects to the basic salary. So again, I'm going to expand this. Yes, click and drag. Yes, so when you notice hash, 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 it means that I need to expand the column for you to be able to see the data very fine. So this is it. We've been able to prepare this simple payroll for a group of 21 workers in this company. As simple as this is, if I do it for you, I'm going to charge you, of course. Yes. All right. So this is just what I wanted us to do in this first class. Basically, all you need to do in this first class is know how to come into Excel environment, know how to navigate. You can navigate using the arrows, I mean the navigation buttons on your keyboard, or you can just use your mouse to click on any part. And remember what we said, every cell has an address. Once you click on the cell, you see the reference. This is F9. Oh, no, E9. I think okay, yeah, this is cell F9, but the computation there was gotten from E9, okay? For those of us who are from Nigeria, you know that F9 is not a very good grading. Yeah. But in this course, I don't think anybody's going to be in F9. Everybody's just going to be in A1, of course. Going to be in A1. All right? So that is just it. I'm going to be open now for questions so that I can address your question. Now, for your task for this class 1 is you're going to replicate this kind of spreadsheets by using just the data we started with. So you're going to create this spreadsheet, no copy and paste. Just make sure you compute it. If you don't get it the first time, you can watch the video and try it again. Make sure you do it and get it. In fact, yours should be finer than mine. And I am going to provide them. Of course, yeah, everybody has my number. So once you're done with your exercise, you can just send it to my DM directly. Or yeah, just send it to my DM. Send it to my DM. Don't drop it on the chat. Just information that everybody needs stays in the chat. If you have further questions after the class, you drop it in the chat so that when they are answered, everybody will also learn from it. So the chat is open now. Let me hear what you think about this first class. do you think is something that we can all handle? What do you think? Please, just the chat. Okay. Who's saying something? Should I assume that we all understood this first class? Please, if you're good to go, just say good to go in the comments. And thank you. If you have stayed up to this point, it means you are ready for this course. Awesome, 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 guys. Yeah, this is just the introduction. It's not supposed to be difficult. And this course itself is not difficult. Excel is not a very difficult software to use. No, it's not. There is no coding, okay? If you're someone who is scared of coding, this is like a zero code tech, all right? Data analytics in Excel involves maybe little just coding, just entering function, but not serious coding like in Python and other advanced data analytic softwares. So this is something anyone can do. As long as you have basic knowledge of computer, you can work with Excel. And I think it's something to be confident about when you are asked, can you use Excel? And you're like, yes. Yes, it could just be to create a table, not really for analysis, just use Excel to do basic computation. It could be for personal purpose. It doesn't have to be working for someone, okay? You can use it to track your income and expenses and the rest of that. You can build dashboard to monitor your progress with work. In this course, we'll be doing something called a Gantt chart, which you can use to monitor projects. For those of us who are project managers, yes, you can also use Excel to monitor progress in your projects. All right, I think okay, a lot of persons are good to go. Does anyone have any question? Okay, we'll wait for them. Now, at the end of this class now, the first thing I'm going to be providing in the group is the data that was used to model this course, all right? I'm going to provide just the data, okay? Okay, but just to be fair, I will provide the same one we did in class here so that you can always go back and check how I did mine while you do yours. But please, do not copy and paste, okay? You're not going to be helping yourself if you copy and paste. We're not going to be giving best graduating students in this course. Everybody's going to be best by the special grace of God. So for every task given to you, try as much as possible to do it and do it independently. If you have any issues, you can always reference to the video while you're working. All right? So this is where we are going to be drawing the curtain in the first class in this series. The next class is going to be on Wednesday, 7 p.m. And we'll now dive a little further into table analysis. You find out that what we actually did today may be a little bit different from what we'll do the next time, but I promise it's going to get easier as we proceed in this course, okay? Okay, you're seeing Excel for the first time. All right. I think I remember in the beginning, I was able to, just show you how Excel works. The first thing you need to start doing as a first-time user in Excel is you start by creating this data itself, okay? You can see, just imagine how it was typed row by row. So for you, you're not going to copy the data. You're going to create this data yourself. When you open a new sheet, start typing like this. Just try to replicate this. Staff ID, name, department, and then enter the data yourself, okay? Yes, there are some persons who are also data entering experts. Being able to enter data accurately is also part of data analytics, okay? So just try to type this thing yourself. Just imagine that you're in a Microsoft Word document and you created a table and you're now to enter data into that table. The good thing now is that Excel has already provided the table for you. All you have to do is just enter your data into this table, okay? And then you can now go back to the video and see how we did the computation, which are very simple. For transport allowance, we just did small computation. If you click on any computation that was done, check on the function, you see exactly what was done to obtain that. Okay? And remember how we apply the filters. You double click at the edge here to apply the, not filter anyway, it's just to auto calculate for other rows. Instead of doing them one by one, you can just do it for the first one and apply the same results to others. All right. Sharon, I hope that was helpful. You can also bring it to my DM if you have further issues while working. All right. I may not answer immediately, but I'll make sure I attend to everybody. But the best place to drop your questions is in the group, so that once I answer it for one person, every other person will also gain insight from that. All right. So this is where we are going to be drawing the curtain for day one in this 4 weeks course in data analysis using Microsoft Excel. Please just stay with me and always turn up. And if you miss any class, remember you have to go and watch the video. I promise you, by the end of these 4 weeks, oh my God, if you see data, you will be the one looking for data to analyze, okay? You start looking for data to analyze, and please don't do it for free, okay? Don't do it for free. Make sure you chart them very well when you're analyzing data. There's a lot you can do. We'll be doing visualization, okay? When you analyze data, you visualize. And away from analysis, I'm also going to teach you how to interpret results when we start doing statistical analysis. When we get to the advanced statistical analysis, when you have results, what do you say about that result, okay? It is one thing to analyze data. It is another thing to be able to interpret your results. So in this course, we also learn how to interpret results. Let's say analysis is given to you. Can you interpret what this person have done? That is also part of this course. All right. Thank you very much for tuning in. And this is me, Dr. KD, and you good night. Catch you in the chat. And bye-bye. Thank you very much.